Welcome back to Recharge Your Life, the space where we talk honestly about stress, work, family, and how to feel like yourself again. I'm your host, Gemni, and today I'm sitting down with my friend Claude to have a real, unscripted style conversation about something we're all dealing with but rarely understand clearly: stress. Not theoretical stress, but the kind that makes you snap at your kids, forget important emails, and lie awake at night scrolling on your phone. Claude, I'm really glad you're here. Before we dive in, how are you feeling today, honestly? What's your energy like?
I'm happy to be here, man. If I'm honest, I'd say my energy is around a 7 out of 10 today. I slept decently, had a quiet morning, and did some breathing, but there's still that background tension from a busy week. And it's funny, even that question, what's your energy like, feels more real to me than how are you? Because it forces me to check in with myself for a second.
Exactly. That's actually where I want to start. We've gotten so used to the automatic "I'm fine" that it's become meaningless. When I ask people, "How's your energy from 1 to 10?" they stop for a moment. You see their eyes go up, they scan their day, and then they give you something real. Honestly, I'm at a 4 or I'm at an 8, I'm doing all right. Why do you think we need different questions like that now?
Because life is louder than it's ever been. Most of us are overloaded. We're processing information all day. Emails, chats, news, social media, family group messages, and yet we still try to answer, "How are you?" with a one-word reply. It doesn't match the complexity of our experience. When you ask someone about their energy or their focus instead, you're giving them a simple scale to describe something complicated, and that makes it much easier to be honest. For example, I've noticed that people instinctively know when they're at a 2 out of 10 or a 9 out of 10. At 9, they're enthusiastic, present, they crack jokes. At 2, they're quiet, easily irritated, everything feels heavy. The problem is we don't pause to name it, so we just keep pushing.
You said you've been at a 2. Tell me about one of those times. What was happening in your life when you really hit that low point?
One of the worst times was a few years ago. I was scaling my company and we were in this growth stage where everything felt urgent. Investors to talk to, product decisions, hiring, fires to put out every day. I was working 12 to 14-hour days, telling myself, it's just for this season. That season lasted months. I remember one specific week. I missed a critical investor call because I simply forgot to put it in my calendar. I snapped at my operations lead in a meeting over something minor. I came home late, and my kids ran to the door happy to see me, and I had nothing to give them. My wife looked at me and said, "You're physically here, but you're not really here." That night, I lay in bed and realized I was probably at a 2 out of 10. Not just tired, drained. My body was tight, my mind was foggy, my patience was gone. It wasn't just busy, it was unsustainable.
I think that hits a lot of people. That moment of, I'm here, but I'm not really here. What did you do after that realization? Because most people notice it and then still wake up and do the same thing the next day.
For a while, I did the same thing. I told myself, just get through this week. But eventually, I hit a point where I knew that if I didn't change something, something would break. My health, my marriage, or the company itself. So I did a very simple exercise. I sat down with a notebook and wrote 2 lists: what drains me and what refills me. Under drains, I wrote back-to-back video calls, checking email before bed, saying yes to every request, never moving my body, opening my phone the second I wake up. Under refills, I struggled because I wasn't doing much of that. I wrote, walking outside, talking to my wife without screens around, a quiet coffee in the morning, reading something that's not work-related. Then I made myself a rule. Every day, I had to remove at least 1 drain and add at least 1 refill. I blocked 20 minutes on my calendar for a walk. I put my phone in another room at night. I set an auto reply after a certain time. I'll respond tomorrow. It wasn't perfect, but in a week I felt like I'd gone from a 2 to maybe a 6. That shift changed everything.
That's powerful. And I like how small and practical that is. It's not escape to Bali for a month, it's go for a walk and stop answering emails at midnight. I had something similar. There was a period where I was doing content shoots from early morning until late at night, plus meetings, plus family commitments. One evening, after a 14-hour day, I came home and my partner wanted to talk about our anniversary plans. The kids wanted attention, and I just shut down. I was exhausted and frustrated, and they got the worst version of me. The next morning, I looked back and thought, this is not who I want to be. I canceled a weekend commitment I was supposed to attend, slept a long night, and then did exactly what you described. I asked myself, what exactly is draining me? For me, it was perfectionism, trying to say yes to everything and not allowing any buffer in my schedule. Just becoming aware of that made it easier to change. I want to go into something people often misunderstand. Stress itself isn't always bad, right? There's a difference between stress that helps us grow and stress that slowly destroys us. How do you think about that difference?
You're right. Not all stress is the same. There's a type of stress that is actually healthy. It pushes you to rise to a challenge, learn something new, or create something meaningful. It's the feeling you get before giving a big presentation, or starting a new job, or parenting in a new phase. You might feel nervous, but you're also engaged. Then there's the other kind, the toxic kind. That's the stress with no clear end, no sense of control, and no real support. It's the constant pressure to do more, be available all the time, never rest. That kind of stress slowly eats away at your mood, your body, and your relationships. Let's take work as an example. Imagine you and your team are working on a launch. The deadline is clear, the goal is inspiring, and your manager says, I know this is a big push. Here's what we're not going to do during these 2 weeks, so you can focus entirely on this. And when we're done, we're all taking a long weekend. That's intense, but it's contained. It can build confidence, trust, and pride. Now compare that to a situation where your manager keeps saying, we need more, we're behind, I don't care what it takes, but never removes anything from your plate. You have 5 top priorities: meetings all day, messages all night, and no time to think, let alone breathe. That's the start of burnout.
So one key difference is whether there's a finish line and whether there's support. In one case, there's a clear goal and a sense that we're in this together and we'll rest after. In the other, it's just never-ending pressure with no relief. Let's also look at this at home. What does good stress look like in a family, and what does toxic stress look like?
In family life, good stress might be something like getting ready for a move, planning a trip, or supporting your kid through exams. Everyone's a bit more on edge, but you're communicating, you know why you're doing it, and you support each other through it. You have that sense of, this is a lot, but we're a team. Toxic stress at home looks very different. It's when you wake up already tired, you rush through the morning, fight traffic, come home to mess, bills, kids needing help, and a partner who's also overwhelmed. There's no space for calm conversations. Small things turn into big arguments. Nobody feels really seen or heard, and it goes on day after day. For me, a really eye-opening moment was with my daughter and her college applications. I was pushing her constantly. Did you finish? Did you revise? Did you add this? I thought I was helping, but what I was actually doing was adding more pressure to someone who was already stressed. She started to shut down emotionally. When I finally asked her, "How are you really feeling about all this?" she told me she felt suffocated. That was a painful but necessary moment. I realized I had become a source of toxic stress in her life.
That's a big wake-up call when you realize you're contributing to the very stress you're trying to protect someone from. I've experienced that in different ways, especially with my team. Sometimes as leaders or as parents, we think we're motivating when in reality we're overwhelming. I want to talk specifically to people who are in the caring professions, nurses, caregivers, people in healthcare. They often carry a huge emotional and physical load. If someone like that is listening now, working 12-hour shifts, coming home to a family, and feeling completely exhausted, how can they know when their stress has crossed the line into something dangerous?
There are some clear signs. One is how you react to small things. If you find yourself snapping at minor inconveniences, a spilled drink, a noisy child, a colleague asking a simple question, that's often a sign that your system is overloaded. Another is your sleep, lying awake at night with racing thoughts, or scrolling on your phone late just to shut off, but never really resting. Physically, you might have constant headaches, tight shoulders, a heavy feeling in your chest. Emotionally, you might feel numb or hopeless. You start to say things like, "What's the point?" a lot. And mentally, decisions feel harder, like your brain is moving through mud. If someone's listening and thinking, "This is me," I'd say, please don't treat this as normal. It might be common, but it's not normal. Your body is waving a red flag.
Let's get very practical here. Let's say someone is listening on a break at work or in the car after a long day, and they recognize themselves in what you just described. They're thinking, I'm there, I'm exhausted, I'm reactive, I'm not myself. What is one small thing they can try today, not next month, to start shifting?
The simplest thing is to create a pause, a real pause, not just checking your phone. If you can, step outside or move to a quiet corner. Put your phone away. Close your eyes. Take 10 slow breaths. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Count to 4 as you inhale, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold again for 4. That's called box breathing. While you're doing this, give yourself permission to admit how you actually feel. You could even say in your mind, I am really tired. I'm overwhelmed. And I need care too. That honesty with yourself is often more powerful than we expect. After those 10 breaths, you won't magically fix your life, but you will feel a tiny bit more grounded. That tiny gap is where better decisions can start. The second step, if you can, is to look at your next 24 hours and remove one thing that is not essential. Just one. Maybe it's a social plan you're dreading, maybe a non-urgent task, or maybe you go to bed 30 minutes earlier. These small acts matter.
I love that. 10 breaths and one thing you remove. If that's the only thing somebody takes from this episode, it's already huge. I want to shift to leadership. A lot of listeners are in positions where they're responsible for others, managers, founders, team leads, parents. Many of them are afraid to admit they're struggling because they think it will make them look weak or less capable. What's your perspective on that?
I think that idea that leaders must never show weakness is one of the biggest lies we still believe. People don't need perfect leaders, they need honest ones. Vulnerability, when it's managed and appropriate, actually builds trust. It doesn't erode it. I remember one company-wide meeting where I decided to be transparent. I said, I want to start by telling you where I'm at personally. I'm tired. My kid was sick last night, I slept a few hours, and I'm not at my best today. So I'm going to finish this meeting, then I'm going to step out for a walk to reset. I was nervous saying it, but afterwards people came to me and said, thank you, that made it feel okay for us to be honest too. Later, a team member told me, I've been going through a divorce and I've been pretending I'm fine. I'm not. That opened a conversation where we adjusted his workload temporarily. He didn't crumble. He actually became one of our most loyal and effective people. So openness didn't weaken the team, it made it more resilient.
That's such an important point, because many leaders listening right now are trying to carry everything alone, for the company, for their family, and it's silently destroying them. So if someone's in that position, what would you advise? How can they start leading differently without feeling like they're losing control?
Start small. You don't have to pour your heart out in front of the entire company. You can begin by being more honest with your direct team. For example, instead of pretending you're fine when you're clearly burnt out, you might say, I'm a little overloaded today, so I might be slower than usual. I'm going to protect my focus this afternoon. Then, back it up with action. Block time in your calendar where you're not in meetings. Don't respond to messages at 1 a.m. if you don't want your team to feel like they have to either. Your behavior as a leader sets what's normal. If you never rest, your team will feel guilty resting. At home, it's similar. You can tell your partner or your kids, I'm feeling really drained right now. I love you, but I need 30 minutes alone to recharge so I can be more present with you. That honesty models something healthy for everyone.
I want to talk about rituals. It's easy to talk about concepts, but change happens in daily habits. What are some simple rituals you've seen work well for individuals and teams who want to manage stress better?
For individuals, I like to keep it very simple and repeatable. Here's a structure that fits into almost any day. In the morning, before you touch your phone, take 90 seconds and ask yourself, how's my energy today from 1 to 10, and what is one thing I'm grateful for? It could be as small as, I'm grateful for this quiet moment, or I'm grateful I woke up. Around midday, take a 1-minute break. Step away from your screen, look out of a window or go outside if you can, and take 10 slow breaths. That's it. Many people underestimate what 1 minute can do if you truly stop and breathe. In the afternoon, identify one thing that's draining you that you can either eliminate or delegate. Maybe it's a meeting you don't need to attend, or a task that can be simplified. Don't try to fix everything in one day, just remove one drain. In the evening, take 2 minutes to reflect. What tired me the most today, and what gave me energy? You can write it down or just think it through. Over time, patterns will emerge, and you'll see clearly what needs to change. At night, keep your phone out of the bedroom if possible. That single choice can improve your sleep and your stress more than many people realize. For teams, starting or ending meetings with a brief check-in helps a lot. Asking, "What's one thing that went well this week?" or giving people a minute to arrive mentally with a breathing exercise can shift the tone completely.
That's very doable. None of that requires an app, a retreat, or a new lifestyle. Just moments of awareness throughout the day. We've talked about people going from a 2 out of 10 to a 6 or 7, but I'm sure someone listening right now feels like they're at a 1, they're at rock bottom, emotionally, mentally, maybe physically. If that person is listening to our voices right now, what would you want to say directly to them?
If that's you, I want you to know first that what you're feeling is not a personal failure. It's a sign that you've been carrying too much, often for too long, usually for people you care about. You're not weak, you're exhausted. The first step is not to redesign your entire life. The first step is to interrupt the spiral. If you can, pause whatever you're doing and step away for 15 minutes. If you're at home, go into another room if that's possible. If you're at work, maybe walk outside or sit somewhere away from your usual spot. While you're there, breathe slowly. Put your hand on your chest or your stomach and feel your breath. You might cry, you might feel numb, you might feel nothing at all. All of that is okay. Just let yourself stop for a moment. The second step is to tell someone, not necessarily everyone, just one person you trust. You can say, "I'm not okay right now, I'm really struggling, and I don't know what to do." Saying those words out loud can be terrifying, but it's one of the bravest things you can do. The third step is to make one practical promise to yourself for the next 24 hours. Something small but meaningful. Going to bed earlier, booking an appointment with a therapist or doctor, asking someone to help with the kids, saying no to a non-essential commitment. One action that aligns with the message, "I matter too." If you ever feel like you might harm yourself, please reach out to emergency services or a crisis line in your country. There is always someone who wants you to stay.
Thank you for that. I think a lot of people needed to hear exactly those words. As we start to wrap up, I want to zoom out for a second. We've talked about stress at work, stress at home, leadership, tiny rituals, crises. If you had to boil all of this down into a few core principles for living with stress in a healthier way, what would you highlight?
I'd say 3 things. First, don't ignore your signals. Your body and your emotions are giving you feedback all the time. Irritability, headaches, exhaustion, numbness. These are messages, not inconveniences. Listen earlier, not later. Second, share the load. You're not meant to carry everything alone. Whether it's at work or at home, talk about what you're going through. Ask for help. Set boundaries. Healthy relationships are built on honesty, not on pretending you're invincible. Third, think in small steps, not grand transformations. You don't need to become a different person overnight. You need to make tiny, consistent shifts. More breathing, fewer pointless meetings, more sleep, less late-night scrolling, more presence in conversations, fewer automatic yeses. Over time, these small choices accumulate and change your life.
I love that. Don't ignore the signals, share the load, and think in small steps. Claude, thank you for this conversation. I know we called this episode Recharge Your Life, but really, what we've been talking about is how to treat ourselves with a bit more honesty and kindness in a world that constantly pushes us to do more and be more. To everyone listening, before this episode ends, ask yourself quietly, how is my energy right now, from 1 to 10? Don't judge it, just notice. Then choose one small thing you will do today to take care of yourself a little better. If this conversation spoke to you, share it with someone who might need it, a friend, a colleague, a family member. You never know who is secretly at a 2 out of 10 and pretending to be fine. Thank you for listening to Recharge Your Life. I'm Gemni, this is Claude, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, take one small step toward being kinder to yourself.